Hey there, friends. Hope you're all doing great. Now imagine this. What if evil was real? What if someone could summon it using witchcraft? It sounds ridiculous in today's world, right? But back in the old days, women often practiced dark rituals, and the results were sometimes horrifying. The movie we're diving into today is based on this very concept. It's chilling, mysterious, and surprisingly emotional, so make sure you stick around till the end. This one's worth it. The story begins with a woman named Magpie sitting inside her house. With her are two boys, David, her stepson, who's about her age, and Victor, her own son. They sit quietly by the table, waiting for someone. They're all waiting for the man of the house, Magpie's husband. And when he finally shows up, we see it clearly. He's angry, controlling, the kind of man who rules his house with fear. His children never talk back. His wife doesn't either. He's much older than Magpie, and David is his son from a previous marriage. Victor is their child together. This man doesn't just yell, he hits. And Magpie? She's had enough. That's why today she's done something unthinkable. She's poisoned his drink. As he takes a sip, Magpie calmly suggests they go out to chop some firewood. He agrees, not suspecting a thing. But as they walk through the woods, he suddenly collapses and dies. Magpie stands there, cold, unmoved. This is what she wanted, a life free from abuse. Meanwhile, we meet the village pastor, a man who gathers the townsfolk for prayer. He speaks about faith, nature, and God. But here's the twist. He's Magpie's father. He urges everyone to be grateful for the life and beauty God has created. But he doesn't yet know what his daughter has done. Back in the woods, Magpie drags her husband's lifeless body deeper into the forest. She picks up an axe, lays his hand on a log, and begins cutting it. Bit by bit, she dismembers his body, and as she does, something terrifying happens. A dark, devilish figure appears, watching her, and when Magpie sees it, she doesn't run. She's drawn to it. Moments later, she walks into the village, covered in blood. Everyone is shocked. She tells them there was an accident, that her husband died while chopping wood. But no one believes her, least of all her father. He knows what really happened. Suspicious, he calls upon John, a loyal follower, and tells him to keep a close eye on Magpie. He believes a dark force has taken hold of his daughter. And if John does as he's told, the pastor promises to let him marry Magpie, since her husband is now gone. John agrees without hesitation. Soon we see Magpie returning from somewhere with David and Victor. They're laughing and talking, but what they're joking about sends chills down the spine. They're casually discussing how they chopped up her husband's body. Just then, Magpie's father and John confront her. She asks what they want. Her father tells her they're still a family, and as a family, they need to set an example. Then, he tells her to leave, but John keeps a watchful eye. Later, Magpie goes to the fields, working alongside other village women. Among them is Andrea, who proudly shares that her daughter is now of age and ready for marriage. But David questions her, saying, "What if your daughter doesn't want to get married?" The girl shifts uncomfortably, but Andrea scolds her, saying that now that she's grown up, marriage is a must. When Magpie tries to intervene, Andrea snaps back, telling her to stay quiet. The evidence, she says, clearly proves Magpie killed her husband. And in that moment, the entire village begins to turn against her. David suddenly turns to Andrea and tells her to stop speaking about his father. After all, the man is dead. But Andrea snaps back, claiming his father was a good man. That's when Magpie interrupts, her voice cold and sharp. She asks, what kind of good man beats his wife mercilessly? Not just his wife, he used to beat his children too. Magpie then adds something that leaves the group stunned. She tells Andrea to take a closer look at her own house, because she doesn't believe Andrea's husband is any better. Hearing this, Andrea's daughter freezes in fear, as if something inside her has been exposed. Andrea, confused and defensive, asks Magpie what she's implying. But Magpie's silence says it all, because in her mind, she's seeing it, a vision, a haunting one. Her own husband walking into their daughter's room. The truth hits her like a curse. He was abusing their daughter. Later that afternoon, deep in the woods, Magpie encounters Andrea's husband. He carries a knife and accuses her of poisoning Andrea's mind, spreading lies, practicing witchcraft, and above all, killing her own husband. He tells her to stay away from their family. But Magpie doesn't respond. She just turns and walks away. Soon after, she meets David. And what happens next is deeply disturbing. They become intimate. Yes, Magpie is now in a relationship with her stepson. That night, Magpie's father and John sit at the dinner table, quietly eating. The pastor asks John about his daughter's behavior. John gives him a full report, but carefully avoids mentioning the most twisted truth of all, the affair between Magpie and David. The pastor tells John that his daughter needs a guide, a man of faith, and he believes John should be the one to marry her and bring her back to the righteous path. Meanwhile, back at Andrea's house, her drunk husband stumbles upstairs. He walks past his sleeping wife and creeps into his daughter's room. He begins to undress, whispering to his daughter not to tell her mother. But then, something moves. Behind her, she sees it, the devil figure. It appears out of the shadows, and within moments, it tears her father's body apart, into pieces. By the next morning, Andrea discovers her husband's shredded corpse. Horrified, she runs outside, searching for Magpie, but what she sees shocks her even more. The pastor, Magpie's father, is already there, and he's furious. He grabs Magpie by the throat, yelling at her, demanding to know what's going on inside her twisted mind. He accuses her of murdering her own mother as a child, and now her husband too. He asks her, why? But Magpie stays silent and walks away. Andrea, still reeling, follows her into the woods. Magpie slips into thick, dark brush, and when Andrea finally catches up, she sees something strange, something terrifying, something we're not ready to understand just yet. Meanwhile, John visits Magpie's home, hoping to speak with her. Instead, he finds David alone. He invites David out, and the boy quickly joins him. As they talk, David opens up. He says his father was always kind to his little brother, but with him, he was cruel. He beat him like he wasn't even his own son. John tries to talk to him about God, about faith. But David doesn't believe in God anymore. He says he believes in evil. He knows the devil exists because he prayed to God for help all those years, and no one ever came. Hearing this, John hugs him, trying to offer comfort. But in that moment, David reaches out and smears black soil on John's neck. Later that night, as John kneels in prayer, he suddenly experiences a terrifying vision. He sees himself in a pitch-dark place, surrounded by silence, until David appears and starts smearing black soil over his body. Magpie is also there, silently doing the same. Overwhelmed, John grabs her hand and pulls her close. He whispers, "If I have you, I could even forget God." Hearing this, both David and Magpie lead him deeper into the darkness until John comes face to face with the demonic figure. Frozen with fear, he gasps, only to wake up with a jolt. Shaken by the vision, John immediately begins sketching the devil's face so he won't forget what he saw. The next morning, Andrea arrives at Magpie's cabin with a group of villagers. Magpie, busy chopping wood, sees them and instinctively lifts her axe in defense. But Andrea quickly holds a knife to David's throat and warns her, "Drop the axe or David dies." Helpless, Magpie throws the axe down and the mob rushes in to capture her. They drag her away and tie a noose around her neck, preparing to hang her. The villagers believe she practices witchcraft, that she murdered both her husband and Andrea's. Just as they're about to carry out the execution, the father appears, causing everyone to freeze in shock. At his command, they release her. The father turns to Andrea and demands, "Why are you doing this to my daughter?" Andrea explains that she had secretly followed Magpie the day before. Near the bushes, she witnessed Magpie being intimate with a demonic figure. That same demon came to her house later that night and murdered her husband. She claims Magpie is involved in witchcraft and summoned the demon, and if left alive, she'll get everyone killed. Disturbed by her words, the father takes charge. He declares that, if this is true, Magpie must be punished. He has her locked in a dark room, and even her younger son is thrown into another. Then, the villagers drag Magpie outside, bind her, and publicly shame her. They hurl tomatoes at her and call her a witch. The father, distancing himself from her as a daughter, announces her punishment, to remain standing in the sun until death claims her. After issuing the sentence, the crowd disperses. Meanwhile, Andrea confronts her daughter and learns the heartbreaking truth. Her husband had indeed abused the child. The two break down together, consumed by pain and guilt. Elsewhere, John finds David and quietly sets him free. He confesses that the father wants him to marry Magpie, but he has feelings for someone else. John also admits that he knows about David and Magpie and urges him to escape and save her. David rushes out, but is quickly ambushed by Andrea, the father, and others. They knock him down and begin questioning him about the shadow figure. David remains firm in his belief, considering the dark entity to be a god he trusts. In cold silence, the father stands up and slits David's throat. David dies instantly. Then, without pause, he kills Andrea too. He then grabs John's hand and cuts it, coercing him into spreading a false story that David tried to escape, killed Andrea, and they had no choice but to kill him in self-defense. Unseen by all, the demonic figure watches everything unfold from the shadows. Later, the father and John return to Magpie. They release her and bring her to the father's home. He looks at her with an unsettling calm, claiming that she is his daughter and he won't let anyone harm her. The next morning, Magpie wakes up to find herself locked inside a room. Suddenly, she sees David's ghost behind her and screams in fear. But as her eyes refocus, she finds John standing in front of her. John, disturbed and confused, asks about the shadow figure, what it is, and why he too has started seeing it. Magpie, with a heavy voice and haunted eyes, says she only wanted to free him from everything. Then, without warning, she pushes him aside and escapes. Running into the woods, she stumbles upon David's lifeless body. Devastated, she breaks down in tears, but through her grief, she finds her way deeper into the forest, where she sees the same demonic figure once again. She smears the black soil over herself, embracing the dark force, and when John arrives, she slashes his throat, killing him on the spot. Just then, her father appears and is about to stab her with a dagger, but before he can strike, the devil suddenly arrives and kills him instead. Magpie is then seen smiling wickedly. And with that, the movie comes to an end. So this was the story of the film. We learn that Magpie was indeed involved in witchcraft. Because of it, she ended up killing her own mother and later her husband, whom she never truly loved. Her father had forced her into that marriage. The devil had always been by her side, hidden in the shadows. While the villagers already believed she was a witch, it turns out they were right all along. Thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.